Hello everyone, Professor Stallard here. I was just at Brooklyn College talking to one of my mentors who works as a professor in the music department, Stephanie Jensen Moulton. She's great. And I was talking about how I feel like because I'm a graduate student and I'm also an adjunct, I have an opportunity that I haven't taken advantage of, which is to share my experience as a grad student with all of you. In my family, I'm the first person who's earned a master's degree, so I didn't really have anyone who had gone to grad school before in my life, so I didn't really know what grad school was like. And I think that I have an opportunity now to share with any of you who are thinking of graduate school after you get your degree what that is like. So this is not related to our lesson for the course, just a little bit about what my experience has been, and of course my experience does not represent everyone's experience. So just how I got to grad school. So I got my undergrad in music education, and then after that I kind of went into a sort of gap. When I graduated, there were not very many music jobs, so I decided to go into AmeriCorps, which is kind of like the Peace Corps. And I was in a program called VISTA, which stands for Volunteers in Service to America. And I did that for 3 years. So I worked with a refugee center in Albany. And through that refugee center, I worked to put together service learning projects for college students. And that's when I discovered that I love teaching college students. And then I worked with some hurricane relief work for after Hurricane Sandy down here for a year as well. So then I got into grad school. So for me, grad school meant a PhD program. That was kind of an accident. That's a long story. I won't go into that. But I didn't mean to start earning a PhD, and I'm earning one. So I went into grad school because I love teaching, and I already had a background in music education, so I wanted to get another degree on top of that that would make me be able to have a career as a professor. So I'm in the PhD program in ethnomusicology at the CUNY Graduate Center, and that's how I started working at Brooklyn College, because often graduate students work as teaching fellows at another school. So within the CUNY system, a lot of CUNY graduate students work at CUNY school. So I was placed at Brooklyn College. So for 4 years, that was my fellowship. So I got paid to teach at Brooklyn College as part of my degree program. Then when that ended, I continued to teach at Brooklyn as an adjunct. So now I'm getting paid to work as an adjunct because my fellowship ended. Adjuncts do not make a lot of money, so many adjuncts work other jobs to make ends meet. So that is a reality of being part of grad school. If you don't have the funding, you have to find income to support your education. So other parts of grad school. So the program that I'm in is supposedly a 5-year program. I'm in year 6, and many people that I know graduate in 7 or 8 years. So sometimes it's longer than it seems. And this is speaking about being in a PhD program. So if you're graduate school that's just a master's is often isn't that long. So I came in without a master's. And for the beginning of your program, you start as a level 1 student, and then you take classes on very specific areas. So I'm always telling you guys in your mission logs how you need to be more specific with your topics, right? That's because whenever you do research, it's really good to get into the habit of choosing very narrow questions to look at or focusing on a specific part of a topic. So my program is ethnomusicology, which is like the anthropology of music. And then within that, one of my focuses is music and disability studies and music and deafness. But that's still too broad. So music and disability studies is like something that people devote careers to. So within that, I need to focus even more. So as you go through grad school, you choose classes that are focused on whatever you are interested in, and you need to make the connections in those classes to your fields. So as an example, I took a class that was on music and disability studies, but then I had to find a project to do in that class that would help me learn about deaf music education in New York State. So now that was level 1. Then after that, you have to take a bunch of exams. So you take a big comp exam and you learn some languages and you move up to level 2. Then you finish coursework, and then you have other parts of your degree to be doing. So I'm not taking coursework right now. I have no classes, but in many ways, I have more responsibilities than I did when I had classes. And that's because at this stage, you prepare for your dissertation. So when you're in a PhD program, a dissertation is the giant, 200-page paper you write at the end. Sometimes they become books. And that is your big research. So you have to choose something very specific for that. So right now I'm in the stage of figuring out what that's going to be. And figuring out what that's going to be is kind of a multi-step process. So one part is I need to take a big exam in January, and my exam has to be based on 2 7 to 8 page reading lists, so 7 to 8 pages of sources related to my topics that I study over these months and then take this exam on. But those topics have to be approved by your professors first. So that's a multi-month back and forth of saying, oh, this source isn't good enough, let's choose a different one. So that's part of what's going on. And then also the finding what your dissertation is going to be. So very long story short, my dissertation most likely is going to be about deaf marimba band education in South Africa. And so that's been part of what I've been doing this semester, is making connections in South Africa with people who are associated with the marimba bands there, with this big festival that they go to, etc., and learning more about that so that I can put together this list, take this test, put together a proposal for my dissertation, all of that. And I should say, I'm not telling you all this to say that I have an excuse for being behind on your work. I just think it's good to be open about what it's like to be in grad school. So if any of you are thinking of doing this path, you have kind of at least one person's story. So yeah, there's other parts along the way. Even though I'm not taking classes, there are some expectations of things I should be doing as I am preparing for this next step, when I get to level 3. So what are those things? In grad school, you're expected that you are staying active in your field. So you stay active in your field by attending conferences, presenting at conferences, planning conferences, and publishing articles. So all of that is kind of part of this package of what are you doing with all your time. So this semester I'm planning one of my other passions is music and game-based learning. So I'm planning a conference on game-based learning. And I just presented about games in the college classroom at a little conference. So yeah, that all takes up time as you're going through everything. And then finally, there's the struggle of teaching versus research, because in a PhD program, there's a big emphasis on research. But at the same time, many people who are getting PhDs are working as adjuncts. So a lot of us like teaching, but our programs push us to focus on the research. That has to be the number one part of what we're doing. So the struggle then is to find time to really invest in learning more about teaching and teaching techniques and becoming a better professor in the process, because that's kind of takes a back seat to what you have to do in your program. Like I said before, teaching is my passion, and so I try to spend time learning about the learning sciences and the psychology of learning, and just what's worked in my classes in the past, and learning from that, and kind of staying active with you guys on Slack online. I'll let you be the judge if I'm doing a good job of that or not. I would say this is not my strongest semester. But anyway, that's all part of this as well, is how do you keep that going while you're going through the process of preparing for these bigger parts of the program. And then, of course, staying social, like having a me time part of life, right? That's not just I am grading all the time. Yeah, so that's kind of my experience of grad school. Based on people I know who are also in programs like this, my experience is not unique. It's not everyone's experience, but it is not uncommon, I would say. So yeah, that's just a little taste of what I'm doing. I'm going to put on Blackboard some information about the project that I'm working on with the marimba band in South Africa, just in case you're interested in that. And yeah, have a great day.